Thousands of matum, patrons of matum, Thompson to me, fair no that old fair in beer. So my fair for front of my Sako once 80% is so much. To money my thing. This is not fair and white. He was out from saying free woman, Patron matum, Tamana Bassam.
As I say, no, sending a man, Yatutu and Yamanum, and no fuel, no. They say, Ama, I had the Amay, I had the Amay, if you say. See, fuel no ekoswa. Yeah, turn your man, so be a cotton your man, or no subatun in your money. Oh, and tis a beer and there, Okone say, ya two and your money also so bad, obey increasing on your man. And the Timbia no Emma Nipa a hochie.
One man come here and train, and I pay a buy a theatreses. You are the CFA for cities. Into one man and transfer, and she should be and can be my and Tiase and Yajuma. Yeah, yet to say at 2 o'clock, now come the fair and Baba. No, so your ban or pay a 10 o'clock, I stay into your 4 cities. Also, into a man of calling near my Yantiasi, now across Ramaya, what's train.
The commercial drivers were of the opinion the fare increases were not enough, especially when they were long overdue.
Driver for Nankasa the Enyama. If we say Abaya to petrol, so more than we come 5 times. I feel not the 15 pesos. As a moon say, Abaya who say, a year petrol one a year Kajuma. You use tie, you use fuel, you use bread food, you use oil. BBI increasing oil near ton 250 and then 400,000. So I say, I said, Abaya who say, yeah, driver for yes, you're gonna for. So I say. You tell us by your test school fees. You be our my moon. Yes, you tell me. About to see and do. And when you know, not passing us so the trouble am my one of the Maya. And you and Cassaya penny, the tomorrow, or 2 be a 2 city. I was here and so about 1,005 pence or so. Just I'm wired. Says I'm a quarter time, a quarter 3 million, and the course is here, I say 4 million. So, just I'm wired. Just you are in the Maya show. And to say Bassana no. I'm wired. What's so I will be doing my do I say, Amy, Ube Chasteca, Ube do I Amy for me as business.
But a GPRTU welfare executive at the Tama station in Accra says strict measures are going to be applied to ensure commercial drivers adhere strictly to the published fares to avoid confrontation with passengers.
So you calculate the 15%. We allow the secretary and the station master to calculate the 15% to that type. Because of the 15%, you calculate it, then you reach about 4 cities, 60%. So you come back to 4 cities. Everybody should take the 15% from Monday going. So you have to accept and move on. Oh no, because if the car came to the scale, the drivers, they will start to educate the passengers that now they increase the petrol, they give us percentage 15% to put on it. Because 15% you can't take all. So you break down, you give some to the passengers, you sacrifice for you people. So you educate them. So there's no problem now. Currently, we didn't hear anything about passenger and the driver on the meet. No.
The latest review, according to government, is partly because of the decision to stop subsidizing petroleum products. Matilda Homaga, for Joy News, Accra.
So that was pretty much the situation here in Accra. We're going over to the Western region and to Takrady to find out what the situation is like. We have on the line William Benjamin Peters. Good evening to you, William. What has been the situation regarding the fuel price increases and the transport fare increases in Takrady?
Yeah, I must be frank. Today has been a sort of hell for some of us who have to go through the hectic time to explain to some of the commuters about the new hikes in transport fares. Some of them are claiming it came as a surprise to them and that they were not aware of it at all. Something funny happened in my community this morning. I saw my neighbor beating up the daughter for overspending, and her concern was that the daughter has overspent, not knowing they increased the fuel price. And then there were heated arguments in various transport terminals across especially the Kenita Takrady metropolis over the fuel hike. And the argument about the commuters, the argument from the commuters was that they were not at all, they were not aware of the hike in the transport fare.
All right, thank you very much. That was William Benjamin Peters reporting for us from the Western Regional Capital, Takrady. Now, Motorists in the Wa municipality have also expressed worry about the increase in petroleum prices. Though they agree the prices would have to go up, they say the 23% increase is inconsiderate. They tell Joy News the increase would have an adverse impact on the cost of living. Rafiq Salam's report from Wa.
Motorists in the Wa municipality say they are not surprised about the price hike in petroleum products because they expected it a couple of weeks ago when the commodity was difficult to come by in the region. They say they are, however, shocked by the level of increase.
It's just all mess. We are suffering. Actually, for you to get a fuel here is not easy. I have been around. I went about 3 places. I think Ramabus, Bamaho, a lot of places. I think all the fuel stations we know in town. We've suffered. That's all. And why here? It's not making business well for us. Actually, we are suffering.
I understand they are owing some companies and stuff like that, and they started doing it. I said better do it. Or else productivity will be affected. Because look at the time I'm going to. It is the honesty of it. It's just it's something else. I mean, the government must sit up.
We are all looking up to the government. We are pleading that whatever means they can do to help us get fuel and do our rounds. Because the shortage is bringing business to a halt. Everybody has to move to work and line up.
The 15% increase in transport fares also resulted in some disagreements between passengers and drivers. The disputes were also compounded by the difficulty in finding change for the passengers. Trotros plying the Wale Sombo and UDS Bamao campus, for instance, now charge 1 Ghana cedi instead of the approved 90 pesos. Rafiq Salam's reports from Wa for Joy News.
With the fuel price increase and the transport fare increase situation, we're going over now to Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital, and to speak to Prince Appiah. Good evening to you, Prince. What can you tell us about the situation there in Kumasi?
Yeah, Ija, I can say that here in Kumasi, there's been a little bit of confusion between the drivers and then commuters because the drivers say there is this problem with the change which they always have to give to a passenger, which is the 5 pesos. So since the increase in fares is 15%, they decided to go for 20% as a result of that 5% change that they have to give to passengers. The situation they've been encountering is that passengers normally do not want that 5 pesos. Anytime they give them, they complain, they don't want it, and it will get lost and all that. So as a result, the drivers here decided to increase the fare to 20% instead of the 15% agreed by the transport operators. So there's been a little bit of confrontation here and there between commuters and then drivers here in Kumasi. But aside that, there are no problem at all. The prices have been increased and it has taken effect since this morning.
All right, thank you very much. That was Prince Appiah reporting from the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi. In a related development, former chief executive of the Volta River Authority and energy expert, Dr. Charles Rakubrobe, is challenging claims by government that petroleum products are being subsidized, insisting a cursory consideration of the various elements making up the price will not support the claim. Speaking on today's big story, he questioned some of the elements in the price build-up, such as the Tema oil refinery levy, and why consumers are being made to pay when the refinery is not working. He charged the National Petroleum Authority to come clean on the matter.
That the MPA needs to be more transparent. If indeed we are deregulated and we are no longer using the refinery, we shouldn't be paying any cost for the refinery. If BOST has abdicated its duty to actually distribute petroleum in bulk, then we should not be paying any margins to BOST. We should not be paying the strategic storage to BOST. You know, I do know about these things because I established the whole thing in 1988. So what you have is that we, the consumers, have been asked to pay for costs, which somebody else has been responsibility for. So naturally, you have to pay the BDCs for their work. Now, as I said this morning, the U.S. is the richest economy in the world. They sell gasoline for 258 pesos per liter. We are selling it for 336. Their minimum wage is 174 cedis per day for an 8-hour day. Our minimum wage is 6 cedis. So when they talk about paying realistic prices, I don't know what realism means.
In other news, majority MPs have voted to dismiss a minority motion calling for a parliamentary probe into the Black Stars campaign in Brazil. 96 majority MPs voted to dismiss the motion in Monday's emergency sitting. The Speaker, Doajao, however, criticized what he describes as government's attempt to railroad Parliament in the matter.
The motion by MP for Achimampunia, Isaac Isiama, to set up a bipartisan parliamentary committee of inquiry to investigate happenings in Ghana's campaign at the just-ended World Cup was immediately objected to by Minister for Youth and Sports Mahama Ayariga, who indicated President John Dramani Mahama has, by a constitutional instrument, set up a commission of inquiry into the matter. He explained there was therefore no need for Parliament to consider a motion to set up another committee and pray the Speaker to dismiss the motion. This, however, generated a heated argument on the floor, with some minority members describing the move as a deliberate attempt to stifle the work of Parliament.
I'm saying that if we look at the powers of this House in relation to establishing a body to inquire into matters of public importance, there is an express constitutional provision, and that express constitutional provision is the Article 278, which I referred you to. And that constitutional provision states what powers this House has in relation to the establishment of commissions of inquiry. And I'm saying that the appropriate motion would have been a motion to ask the President to set up a commission of inquiry into this matter of public importance. And I'm saying that given that the President has already set up that commission under a constitutional instrument, then it makes the movement of this motion mute. Mr. Speaker, after the Honorable Member for Boku Central and the Minister for Youth and Sports had come to this House to state, to bring to the House's attention that he had set up an administrative inquiry, today he comes here and draws our attention to the fact that on the 11th, which probably was a day after he made the statement, His Excellency the President, probably based on the advice of his minister, who came to this House to make a statement that he has set up an administrative inquiry in respect of the Black Stars participation, there's been a CR. Does it mean that the President is seeking to undermine the work of this House?
I'm indeed saddened that some people are not serious enough in this House that we should subordinate the power of Parliament to the Executive. How can we do that? Mr. Speaker, it is embarrassing to this House that some people do not even understand the difference between the Executive and the Legislature. What is the meaning of separation of powers? What they are inviting you to do, Mr. Speaker, that tear this Constitution into shreds, because it doesn't matter anymore. What is the dignity of this House?
The Speaker, after a lengthy argument between the minority and majority, admitted the motion and subsequently put it to a vote.
When I use the word bad faith, I use in relation to the objection taken by the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, because we were all in this House when he came to make a statement, and I made the statement that that does not prevent the motion being moved. So for me now to come back now to say that the motion cannot be moved would be in a bad faith. Honorable members, I will now put the question. As many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honourable members, I want to use the discretion vested in me by Standing Order 1131 to call for the head count. The ayes, 76. The noes, 96.
Parliament also looked at the Finance Committee's report on a $300 million credit facility agreement between the Government of Ghana and VTB Capital PLC.
An Accra High Court has dismissed a case brought before it by the Labour Commission challenging the legality of the strike declared by polytechnic teachers. The court insists the strike by the lecturers was legal and ordered a compulsory arbitration to resolve their impasse. Polytechnic teachers across the country declared a strike to protest the non-payment of their book and research allowances. The strike led to the closure of polytechnics in the country after the mandatory 21 days period elapsed. Per the Polytechnic Act, a school will be closed after 21 days of continuous strike by lecturers or students. The lecturers have been out of the classroom for over a month, disrupting the academic calendar and consequently leading to the closure of the polytechnics. The Ministry of Education as well as the Labour Commission had both described the strike as illegal and ordered the lecturers to return to the classroom, an order the lecturers defied. The lecturers have since dropped hints they will soon call off the strike so they can begin compulsory arbitration. Also, the rector of the Wa Polytechnic, Professor Godwin Kweku Aflakui, has expressed worry over the snail pace of work at the Polytechnic and is appealing to government to ensure the GET Fund will bail them out of their current situation. Rafiq Salam's report from Wa.
Wa Polytechnic, which was the last of the 10 regional polytechnics in Ghana, was officially established in September 1999. The first batch of tertiary students were admitted in 2003 to pursue HND programs in agricultural engineering, secretariatship and management studies. Nearly a decade after its establishment, the school operated from borrowed and rented premises to serve as its central administration, computer lab and classrooms before the Ghana Education Trust Fund constructed a modern administration block, a lecture theatre complex and bungalows for staff. However, the current allocation from the GET Fund is not enough to meet the pressing needs of the Polytechnic, especially residential facilities for students. At the fourth graduation of the school, Rector of the Polytechnic, Professor Godwin Kweku Aflakui, expressed worry about the snail's pace at which projects are executed and appealed to the government to come to their aid.
Work on getting the full complement of our fiscal infrastructure in place to make Wa Polytechnic the primus inter pares in the conversion to technical university has stopped. For more than a year now, certificates submitted by contractors to the Ghana Education Trust Fund have not been paid. Indeed, I have heard from the grapevine that for 2013, only 5 months out of the 12 months money that accrued to the GET Fund was paid.
The Minister of Education, Professor Jane Nano Pokwajiman, in a speech read on her behalf by Dr. Daniel Pilori, assured the Polytechnic government will take steps to address the deficit in infrastructure at the school.
We have more news coming up. Do stay tuned. The Judgment Debt Commission says it has become pertinent to investigate a petition brought before it by the chief of Adentang, claiming more than half of the land on which the Adenta Snit flats are built. The Agbawe family, headed by the Adentang chief, Ni Kubi Sawa, is claiming compensation for the said land for which acquisition was first made in 1974.
The Agbawe family is said to have first put in its claim in 1993. Some 1,283 acres out of a total of 2,068 acres is being claimed by the family. The Lands Commission, however, says it cannot confirm whether compensation has been paid, especially since the family's claim conflicts with 26 others.
The 26 other claims, are they also all waste, that's families, or waste, that's houses, or families, or individuals?
I know, for instance, that Nungwa has a claim, La has a claim. There are a couple of families and secondary interest claims based on grants from I'm not sure who. Records indicate that the 2,068.99 acres was valued in 1996 in the total sum of 21,768,162,000 old cities. There are a total 32 claims.
The chief of Adentan and head of the family, Barima Osei, who was invited to answer questions relating to the case, was absent. His representative told the commission he was sick and has been asked to appear at a later date to assist the commission with its investigations. The commission insists, though it seems no compensation has been paid to any claimant, they are required to investigate and determine who is entitled to compensation regarding the Adentan State House and Land.
Do not forget, the Commission is investigating claims in respect of compensation payments pertaining to land, and then judgment debts that had already been paid, to know exactly whether certain untoward things were done as far as these judgment debts were procured. And again, if it is in respect of compensation, the Commission also like to know whether the proper valuation has been done, the claims have been paid to the rightful owners of the lands that had been acquired by the government. So as to whether the claim has been paid or not, once a claim has been made, the Commission has the power and mandate to go into that matter.
The acquisition, which was first made in 1974, has seen its executive instruments amended twice, in 1991 and then 1992.
Millions of girls globally are forced into unwanted sex, increasing the risks of unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions and sexually transmitted infections. According to the UNFPA Ghana representative Barima Amadou, a sustainable future depends on having resilient populations, which can be achieved by investing in young people. Reported by Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin.
According to the assistant representative at the United Nations Population Fund, Ghana, Barima Amadou, teenage pregnancies contribute about 30% of maternal mortality rate in Ghana. He indicated that the alarming figure means Ghana is not very much near achieving Millennium Development Goal 5. He added it would require a miracle for the country to achieve the target of reducing maternal mortality by 2015.
It's undebatable that there are a lot of associated problems when young people go into such acts. The child may end up on the streets if you are not capable of taking care of him or her. The child may be malnourished. In long term, some of these children, when matured, after going and growing through hardships, may decide to go into armed robbery as a means of taking back from society because they felt neglected.
At a World Population Day, to sensitize students at the Adanwomasi Senior High School in the Ashanti region on how to manage their lives, representatives from the Planned Parenthood Association Ghana, Margaret Abankwa, advised young girls to abstain from sex.
We know that definitely some time will come when you have feeling, you have taste for going in for sex. Take care of yourself. Don't get pregnant at that time, because those who are working, ask your parents, they are working. You might have a parent up here. It is difficult.
The Ashanti Region President of the United Nations Association also urged the young girls to pay attention to their personal values and study to gain knowledge about what would guarantee them success and peace.
Over 500 residents at Kokope community in the Sujaman district in the eastern region are faced with acute water problems. The residents are calling on government and other stakeholders to come to their aid. Haruna Yusufumpini reports.
Over 500 residents of Kokope depend on the small stream called Ejretovi for their domestic and industrial needs. The residents are unhappy about the absence of pipes and boreholes in the community, which is a major source of worry to them. The water from the Ejitovi stream is not suitable for human consumption because of pollution from animal droppings and other waste. Residents are therefore compelled to walk for a long distance in search of water for their domestic use. One of the residents who spoke to Joy News, Kofi Gbeve, appealed for aid since, according to him, the stream is the only source of water in the entire community. In his response, the Sujaman District Chief Executive, Thomas Ampemnyako, said the District Assembly has constructed a mechanized borehole in the community. According to him, his outfit will put in place some measures to ensure the Ejiretovi stream will be treated to make it suitable and safe for human consumption.
I met with the community and was working closely with them to see if we could provide a toilet facility. Then all of a sudden one gentleman stood up amongst the crowd and asked the question, that toilet and water, what do you want? And the whole community said water, water, water. So I realized that what the community needed was not only toilet, but most importantly, potable drinking water. So I got a company to dig a mechanized, dig a borehole there. We have a mechanized borehole. We have just procured some polytanks that we'll send to the place for them to use, and so that that community will be able to get potable drinking water.
A report by Haruna Yusuf Wumpuni from the Eastern Region.
Some heads of senior high schools in the Ashanti region are proposing government reconsider its sanitary pad handout initiative contained in the secondary school improvement project and possibly channel the funds into other projects. Less than 1% of the $156 million loan from the World Bank will be used to finance the pad component to reduce the dropout rate among girls. But the heads who have been speaking to Joy News say there are likely to be problems with distribution of the pads. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin has more.
Government's intention to distribute sanitary pads to some deprived senior high schools in the country has become a national discussion over the past few weeks. While some Ghanaians share divergent views, others think it's a good initiative to increase school attendance among girls in the deprived communities. Most of the headmasters, though, are unclear about how the distribution will be done. The Adanwomasi Senior High Secondary School headmaster, for instance, fears the girls may be the subject of ridicule if they are to be distributed through the schools.
They were to purchase the pass and then deposit in the school with the headmaster or senior house master or senior, even senior house master, and they ask the student girls to come and collect them. They may not even go because they may feel shy, because boys may be teasing them, hey, it's pass now, so that one will have its own challenges.
The intended beneficiaries themselves can't seem to find common ground, raising issues about brand taste and preference among others.
To me, it is not good and it's not fine for a male to give us pads. No, it is not good. And if he would be able to put that thing aside or stop giving us the pad and use the money that he's going to give us to do more things for the government, and that one will be very fine.
For me, I think the distribution of the pad is not a good act of the government. The reason being so is that when we come to the ladies' side, me for instance, let me say, yeah, to the ladies, most of the ladies, we have different pads that we used. Some use pretty, all right. We have different pads that we use, and the government cannot distribute only a pad, and only one type of pad for us to use, all of us to use. Some, it will benefit them, others, it will not benefit them. And
the suggestion, therefore, is that government rather invest the money in a different area. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin filed this report from the Ashanti region.
We'll be back with business. Stay tuned.
Hello there, time now for some business reports with me, Abigail Adomakoinchi. Now, government would be seeking to raise a little over 17 billion Ghana cedis through the issuance of bonds and treasury bills for the rest of the year. This was contained in the calendar for government securities from July to December, released by the Bank of Ghana. The release shows that government through the central bank would issue 2 3-year bonds for the next 6 months, one later this month and the other in October. According to the Bank of Ghana, out of the 58.4 billion Ghana cedi public debt as at March this year. 28 billion Ghana cedis was borrowed locally. The move could see governments compete with private businesses for funding. In other news, government says it would ban the importation of rice only if the local producers are able to meet the demand in the country. There were reports earlier this year suggesting government was considering banning rice imports, which cost the country $600 million annually. The Trade Minister Haruna Iddrisu last week announced a 50 million Ghana cedi stimulus package for large-scale production of rice and poultry. He says this should enable farmers increase production and meet the country's needs over time. There's still more news on the controversial EPA, and civil society network Third World Network is condemning the decision of West African leaders to approve the signing of the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. According to them, the decision will lead to the collapse of the local manufacturing sector and a further depreciation of the cedi. It is therefore asking parliamentarians not to ratify the agreement. The decision to approve the EPA, which was taken at the 45th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government on July 10, 2014 in Accra, runs counter to the long-standing views and positions expressed by several groups, including United Nations and the African Union. For the Third World Network, which has been very vocal on the matter, the heads of state have failed to listen to their citizens.
For the heads of state not to listen to all these stakeholders, talk about the Christian Council, talk about the farmer-based organizations, talk about the African Union and the citizens of West Africa, the ordinary citizens of West Africa who are actually going to bear the brunt of this trade pact. Is actually unfortunate for us as a region. Now parliaments across the region will have to ratify the agreement, and since parliament is the citizens' representative, they represent constituencies in West Africa, it is incumbent on parliament to make sure that they listen to the citizens. The executive actually failed us, as leaders, they've actually failed to listen to the citizens. They rather listen to the European Commission. Of course, we also call on the citizens across the region. Yes, people can demonstrate against the signing, they can call on their MP. What you are about to do is not good for us as a region.
They still maintain agreeing to the EPA would lead to the collapse of the manufacturing and other productive sectors of the economy.
We have what they call the export with the prohibition on export taxes. How on earth will you agree that if I want to encourage the value addition in my local economy, I cannot do that? So once you, if you take an example of the scrap metal, something that is made available for local value addition within the local economy and creating jobs for people. And so as a region, we are saying that, look, from now on, we're not going to impose any export tax on any raw material that leave in the country. And so the thing goes to Europe. They use it for their value addition and bring it back to us. And we are complaining of currency instability. So long as we keep on importing and we don't have a clear strategy as to how we can develop our manufacturing sector, we'll continue to complain about imports. We need to complain about lack of jobs. And so until we get that strategy right.
The Third World Network, meanwhile, plans to facilitate more interactions between citizens and Parliament to prevent the approval of the EPA. So that'll be all from me today. For more business news, log on to mydoronline.com. Sports comes up shortly with George Adu Jr.
World of Sports, and Ghana boxer Richard Comey defeated Welsh Gary Buckland to claim the vacant Commonwealth lightweight title at the York Hall over the weekend. All three judges scored in favor of the young boxer, who could not live up to the billing of knockouts recorded in his previous 8 bouts. Richard Comey claimed the vacant Commonwealth lightweight title with a unanimous points victory over Welshman Gary Buckland at the York Hall over the weekend. The judges scored the fight 117-111, 117-111, 118-110 in favor of the Ghanaian. But he had a tough night as the 28-year-old Buckland and took him the distance for the first time in his career. Comey had won his previous 17 fights inside 8 rounds. It was Buckland's second successive defeat after his split decision loss to fellow Welshman Gavin Rees in May. His rugged approach posed questions about the power of the much-touted Comey, who seemed unable to hit the Cardiff fighter. Epping-based Comey fought off the ropes in the early rounds and was hit with a number of overhand rights. However, from round 6 onwards, he switched his attacks to Backlund's body and took control of the center of the ring as the Welshman's impressive work rate slowed. Comey unleashed a barrage of punches on Backlund in the 10th round, but was still unable to really hit his opponent. However, Backlund's fate was sealed in the 11th round when he was deducted a point for punching his opponent on the back of the head.
Let's now do some soccer now. The Black Stars fell 18 places on the FIFA World Ranking released after the Mundial culminated yesterday. Ghana started the competition with an enviable 7th position from the last World Cup, but ended with a disappointing 25th after the group stage exit.